In today's episode, we talk about qualities that become things that you start disliking about your partner. Check it out. Welcome to another episode of Same Page. We are your hosts, Sarah Simajust.
And I'm Lenard Simajust.
Today we're talking about qualities in your partner that eventually become things that you dislike.
Interesting. Now this might cause a little ruffles, you know what I mean? So we're doing this off the brain, unscripted, so we'll see what type of reaction we'll get.
Yeah. So actually my sister brought up this topic and she said we should talk about this, and I totally agree. Sometimes in a relationship, certain things that you admire about your partner initially becomes things that you detest, whether it's like too much of it and you see it too often and you're like, okay, I do like this about you, but maybe like a smaller dosage, and then eventually it sort of becomes annoying. So I thought of a few things that in a relationship that initially I sort of liked, and then now maybe not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
So how about I start?
Okay.
For me, definitely one of the first things, it's one of the first things that comes to my mind, that one of the first qualities that really attracted me about Sarah is the fact that she's very punctual. So basically when it comes down to it, whenever we are getting ready to go somewhere, like I'm not here waiting for Sarah, like for her to do her hair or do her makeup or find the right outfit to right outfit to wear. So it's like it's good when it's like when you have a set time and we can be ready for that time, and then also end up leaving for that time. But the downside to that, so that was all nice and dandy at the beginning, especially when you're dating a lot more, after you get married, it's like you have to set out those date nights. So it's more of like a routine thing, and then you get these other obligations as far as family obligations and whatnot. But now it's one of those things where it's like her punctuality, I think, is almost excessive, because then she'll want to leave, like say something's at 4:00, she'll want to leave an hour ahead of time. And in my head, I'm like, do we really need to be at that place that early? Now, yes. I know in her mind, it's like, well, what if there's traffic? And what if, what if someone dies? And what if someone, loses a leg? And what if this? And what if that? So she's thinking about all these contingencies that could happen. And then, so just to kind of prepare and give us time to allow those things to happen, and also for us to arrive there on time. So that's definitely my first thing, where it's like these days I find myself sometimes biting my tongue saying, oh, you really want to leave at that time? And I'm like,
Well, in my defense, can I defend myself or no?
No, there's no defending. It's just pure stating.
Okay, pure stating.
How about you? So what's your...
All right then, if we're going to be stating, well, there's a few. How am I going to choose between all of them? Kidding. Yes, so at the beginning, interestingly enough, before we started dating, I didn't want to date a person that was too social. Okay, I don't know. Selfishly, I sort of wanted to be the life of the party, and and not to don't interact too much with the guests, out of fear of like maybe too much flirtation and whatnot. Okay. I think I never really processed that, but I think now that I think back about it and I think of why, that was my initial want for a husband or a boyfriend. And then when you came around, you were very social, and I really liked that. I was like, oh my gosh, you can take him places. You don't have to hide him outside at your house and never take him out. Like, he's social, he can mingle with people. I can easily go to my family's and kind of leave him for 30 minutes, and then he'll find his way and chat with somebody, and they'll be in a really good conversation. And I found myself really liking that about you. But then as the relationship progressed, it's still good that we can go somewhere and you kind of find your own way and you're not stuck to me, I guess. But at the same time, Len is so social that I find that like anywhere we go, sometimes personally I'm not very I don't want to interact with people, and um, you always find somebody to interact with. Like Leonard will always know someone and be like, "Hey, how's it going? No, 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 no. And, you know, how's your mom? How's your sister? How's your brother's dog?" And I'm just like, sometimes I don't want to socialize, right? But he is that person who's always kind of like, reaching out to people. And I think he's on the phone a lot. He thinks he's not on the phone a lot. I disagree, but we'll just agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like this thing where it's like, yeah, it's good to be social, but it's, to me, I wouldn't say it's excessive, but sometimes when I don't want to be social and we're together, and I find myself having to socialize with other people because he's, meeting these people that he knows and whatnot, and I'm just kind of like, ugh, I wish you weren't that social person that you just kind of hid and be like, oh no, I'm not going to talk to these person.
Okay. Well, my next point.
Oh gosh, I don't want to hear it.
Will be so one thing that definitely attracted me to Sarah is her sense of urgency, and by a sense of urgency, I like, it's not necessarily that per se, but just I guess there's like that sense of just the way she goes about things, as far as, she's really on the ball when it comes to whether it's doing her budget, or whether it's handling whatever task it's given to her. She's always on the ball, and she's always, ready to solve problems, basically, right? But then, after a couple years, and after, a couple of interactions here and there, then you realize that it's like, well, for one, we have different senses of urgencies. I think we spoke that on another video. So then it's like, she gives importance to certain things where I don't give that much importance, and that's where we have a little bit of friction, where it's like, I don't have a specific example in mind right now, but it basically comes down to something that's pressing for her may not be pressing for me, and then that tends to cause a little bit of conflict, a little bit of friction.
So. Yeah, that definitely happens. I would say more frequently than it should.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Like, and like I feel I'm more laid back. I feel she's maybe a little bit more high strung. But at the same time, we just kind of, like, at least for me, I just kind of pick my battles, and then I also try to really understand where she's coming from, and to see why she's either valuing this thing or putting that much importance on this thing to get done, like, right away. So at least I can appreciate that about her.
All right. Is there one more thing? Yeah.
Well, you said there was so many.
Yeah, they are, but I have to pick. I can't. This video can't be for hours. One thing that I initially really liked about you is the fact that you really wanted to offer me stability, right? And I remember actually early on, when we were dating, you were like, Sarah, I want to offer you stability. And I think because I didn't have that in previous relationships where, the partner didn't necessarily have a steady job, or they were sort of like figuring out still what they want to do with their lives, but like you were able to offer me like, okay, we can get married, we can live in a home, this is where we're gonna live, we're gonna be okay financially, so that type of stability. But I along the way, like, I found myself like not necessarily wanting stability, but craving more adventure. Like, I'm like, well, I mean, do we have to have like a steady home? Like, I wouldn't mind if we sold our home and traveled for 6 months and then bought something else, moved back to Ottawa or somewhere else. And I kind of crave adventure. And sometimes even if I would bring an idea, not that it would be rejected, but I think like Leonard's initial reaction is more like, well, that's sort of, we're sort of like in this box, like this is what we do, as opposed to being like, oh, I never thought of this, and let's explore this idea. So definitely it took a little bit more sort of push to get my ideas across and get whatever I wanted in terms of adventure for you to agree on, because I felt like you were more like, no, this is our life, you know. This is our comfort, this is our life, and I was seeking more of that adventure and pushing and doing different things.
Okay, well, that wasn't too painful, actually.
You know? Would you agree with these things that I said about you, or I mean, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. As sometimes some of these things are difficult to hear. But if you actually take a step back and are honest with yourself, like you realize, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, you know, I mean, oh yeah. When it comes to, I am kind of social. I do know people now. Mind you, obviously I'm from Ottawa, so it's like I grew up here, and Sarah always makes a comment like it's almost like every time we step out, we bump into someone that I know, and it's very random, and it could be someone that either I see on a regular basis or someone that I haven't seen in like 10 years. So it's like it's very all over the place. And then when it comes to that stability component, I know for me, it's like, obviously that's something I wanted to offer Sarah too, but at the same time, I was in a position where I was definitely in the comfort zone when it came to, obviously, to my work and to my lifestyle, where it's like, okay, so here comes Sarah, and she wants to do and try all these different things, and I'm like, do we really have to try all that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, can we just stay in this lane? But at the same time, it's like life is all about experiences, and it's all about, you know, trying new things. So that's one thing I can really appreciate about Sarah. Aww. Exposing me to different things.
Even though you said you weren't going to comment, you commented, but you finished on a good note, so I'm going to accept it.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. All right, well, let us know, like, are there qualities about your partner that now you're like, oh, you know, this used to be a qualities, but it's a little bit too much now, and it's not something that you appreciate anymore. Let us know in the comments, and thank you for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also don't forget to live your truth.